builder for the point system. It's very, very easy to use, but at first glance it might be a little bit daunting. So I thought I'd show you how to do one, and I thought I'd use an army that's a little bit complex in how you have to put it in. So I'm going to build you a classical Indian army, and this is the classical Indian army over here. So first thing you need is the actual army list, and it will tell you on an army list what generals you can have, the types of generals you can have. So this can have instinctive generals only, which are the ones that can't spread the cards around at all. You can have a choice of 2 of them being allies. I'm going to do them without allies. It gives you the dates, it gives you the terrain, and it gives you what it can have in terms of a camp. So let's start with those bits because that's quite easy. So let me just put in what we're doing. We're doing a classical Indian. I'm going to have a look down for dates and see if there's anything interesting I want dates. I'm going to build something with some chariots. So I'm going to go before 320. So we'll go sort of 330 BC. So about the time they had Alexander. I'm not going to do any allies. Allies are down here. You're allowed to mount an Indian ally for this one. And I'll put an ally in later and show you how that works. Fill in the terrain bits up here. Everything's done with drop downs. And what you'll find is once you've done a few, it's really easy, and actually you can cut and paste quite a bit, as I'll show you in a minute, to speed things along. This is for the benefit of any army checker, so they can find the army with 670 to go out. Sometimes we get lost. So there we go. There's the top bit done. Best place to start usually is to put some sort of semi-sensible generals in and then decide if you'll tweak them later. So I'm going to give this army a talented instinctive and a couple of competent instinctives and a mediocre instinctive. With instinctive generals, you nearly always want to have 4. So I'll do that. And as you can see, it's working out the points as it goes. It's sticking them in. It's telling you how many cards you get. It's calculating the size of the army and how many PBS cards and scouting cards you get. So everything's automated. So let's start putting some things in. Everybody likes elephants. So let's have some elephants, okay? And we're in Maximus mode at the moment. So for the big armies, there we go. You will find, my typing has let me down, let's do that. The drop downs will have all you need. So that's an elephant in type. If you look over there, it says tribal loose. That's the classification you need to have for that one. I usually print out the actual sheet. Their average quality, they're protected. That's ready filled in because it's the most common one. There's no weapons at all. They do have shove as being decent sized elephants. You'll find that in the characteristics here. So there you go. And then you decide how many you want in a tug, in a unit. So you can have 2, 3 or 4. So I'm going to go for a couple of 3s and put those in like that. Now once you've done one, this area is the calculation area is protected, but this area will allow you to copy down. So if I want to have, let's say, 3 elephants, I can actually do that and just fill down, and they will go in. Equally, you can take a different approach and just select all of that, copy it, and put it there. Now I've got 4 lots of elephants, and that's the maximum 12. And you can see we've rattled up to 5,000 points already. Let's see how we go and see if we can keep all 12 of them in the army. It would be quite entertaining if we can. Next thing I'm going to do is let's put some chariots in. So chariots here are, unsurprisingly, chariots. These are a bit different. They're formed loose. They are superior. So I drop that down. They've got short spear as a melee weapon, so that's quite handy for them. They're mainly a shooting platform, so they are experienced bow, and they can have a few things. They have to have melee expert, that reflects the large crews, and they can have shoot and charge and devastating charge. I'm going to stick actually both of those in because it makes them a pretty potent strike force when the time is right. So I'm just going to have 4 of those. I can have 4 or 6, but I'll have 4 of those because they're pretty expensive. Now, notice here, it won't calculate anything unless you put a number in here. That's a protection mechanism to avoid having things in that are not working. So you see the minute I put that in, it's done the calculation. Those are expensive too. Now, luckily, the rest of the Indian army is pretty cheap. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to have a look what I have to have. So let's see. So I have to have at least 9 javelin men, and they can be in 9s. So a 9 of those is probably handy. So let's have that. Let's do the compulsories first. These are all going to be tribal troops. So tribal loose, average protected. They don't have any short spear as such. They're more throwing weapons. They are experienced, sorry, unskilled. I see now, unskilled, javelin. And I'm not going to bother giving them anything as extra features for the moment. So there we go. Let's do that. 6. Ding, 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 ding. 6. Let's have a full 9 of those. It'll make them quite resilient. Look how 9 of those compared to 3 elephants. You can see the cost difference. The core bit now, you have to have some bowmen, these archers here, and we have to have some cavalry. So let me put some cavalry in. They're there. 4. We have to have at least 4 cavalry. The cavalry in this are a little bit like backup, so we'll not do anything too fancy with those. So that's cavalry. They are also tribal loose. They are pretty poor stuff, but the good news is they are cheap. So as long as you keep them out of the way a bit and use them in careful situations, they're not a disaster. So you can see they're only 296. So I'm going to take 2 of those, copy one down, to give me 1 on each flank just as a bit of extra safety. Now we go to the other compulsories, these spearmen here and archers. We have to take some archers. Now if you look at down here, you'll get some notes on certain things in some armies that will tell you things that you can do in different types of organizations. So this here says foot tugs may combine 1/3 spearmen and 2/3 archers in a unit of 6 or 9. So this represents the spearmen in front of the archers. So I'm going to have to set that up. Now the way you do that is quite simple. It's also in the instructions. All you do is give the different parts of the tug the same number here, and the machine will do all the rest of the work for you. So we'll do a front rank of spearmen, and we'll do 2 rear ranks of bow archers. Let's call them archers. And a little trick I often do with these is to put them in capitals for the top one, so that I can see that the one underneath is a secondary part of the same unit. It just helps the eyes sometimes. So if we do this, these are tribal flexible, the front ones. So that means they can change formation. So the advantage of doing it this way with this army is they can be in close order as front line protection and give the bowmen a little bit of protection. And they all have short spear. And you'll see if you look at them, boom, 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 boom. The only other option is combat. I can make them weak and cheap, but I don't want that. So I'm going to do a front rank of 3 of those, and then I'm going to go a rear rank of 6 archers, which are tribal loose, average, experienced bow. So now we've got 2 ranks of bow fire behind a rank of the spearmen. You can also make those combat shy, but it's an option with these archers because they did carry decent swords, and that's part of why they're done that way. So there you go, there's a mixed tug. It's the total of those. It's 591 for the complete thing. So as these are the core of the army, I'm going to see how many I can afford to get to my 10,000 points. And again, I can just copy and paste. Let's see. There we go. I can get at least, right, I managed to get 4. We'll save that. So all I now have to do to finish that off is to do this. And I'm up to 12 tugs at the moment. Now I'd quite like another one, and to get us up to 11. So I've got an option on the cavalry to have another 4 of cavalry, but I'll have to be careful with them. So I'm going to stick another cavalry in there. 13, there we go. And that leaves me 230 points to play with. So I can either improve the camp, so I can make the camp average, make it a little bit more defensible. That's an option. Or I could find some skirmishers. So let's see if there's some skirmishers. Well, they have slingers down here as skirmishers, and they have skirmishers with bow. We also have the option to upgrade the elephants so that they shoot with accompanying foot troops. So I think I'm going to try that and see if that fits. So let's go. Let's add experienced bow to the elephants. They now all shoot. Now that's interesting. Let's see if I can do that all the way down. We may have to reduce the number of elephants. So I'd quite like that. So I'm only 130 points out. So I'm going to have a little doodle and see what I can do to get my 130 back. Now you're always allowed to downgrade troops by 1 level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to downgrade some of these cavalry to poor. There we go. And then with the last tiny bit I've got left, I might just be able to make that average. Look at that, 9,990. Job done. There's your Indian army. Now, as a tidy up, I always like to actually keep them all neat. So I'm going to, with all the troop types the same, so I'm just going to have a little tidy up here, and I'm going to put these cavalry all in the same place. I'm going to actually just copy. If you do this, it's very easy. Just copy them across. So I'm going to put those below there. So I've got all the cavalry together. And then I'm actually going to copy the whole damn lot, including some blanks. Put them there. And that will give me everything in the right order for me, for my mind, because I quite like having the infantry first. So that's 10, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, so you can see the army now breaks on 7, so it's quite a decent size army. We managed to get all the elephants in. There's a talented who can block 4 together, so they can probably manage a big infantry block, and the competents can manage the elephants and the cavalry. So I'm quite happy with that. If you go over here, I'm just going to save it for future reference. I'll just do that quickly. Let's call it Army Builder Demo. There it is. Okay, so here we go. So we've got it there. Now the nice thing that's been done is then when you click on this print format, you don't have to do anything much. This simply pulls in everything into a nicer print format, and all you have to do is go over here, click false, and if it's on false, you'll do it then, and it'll select everything in the army in order and put them in with all the right codes. And there you have your 9,990.7 breakpoint. Terrains in here, player contact details, average unfortified camp, 6 PBS cards, which is acceptable. It can live with that. Not a lot of scouting. And here it is with two of the cavalry poor and 1 average. So that's the bit we'll have to be careful with. But there's a huge amount of bow fire there because, of course, the elephants fire as well. So everything from 1 to 10 are shooting in some form. The spearmen can form close order in the open, and these foot can operate with the elephants. So we've probably got bow interspersed with elephants twice. And then we've got a chariot with an average cavalry as something reasonably useful on a flank. And we've got 2 cavalry as a reserve, and we need some terrain to protect the flank. And if you go up to the top and hit print for that while you're in Excel, so we do that, then that single sheet will print out. So there's your Indian army. I'm going to go back and do a few tweaks. So let's imagine this was now a Pacto army. A lot of you are starting up with Pacto. All you need to do is click on here and drop the whole thing down, and it will change the points of the generals for Pacto. And then all you do is change the sizes of all of these for what's relevant for Pacto. So the elephants can be in 1s or 2s. I'm going to do the elephants in 1s. Chariots come in 2s. All these infantry come in 2s. And then what changes about these is when you have double rank, you drop them back to 2 ranks, and you give the front rank the shooting of the rear so that it still represents full shooting with spears at the front. So they become like so. And I'm going to just do a copy of that and copy over each of those. Bang, bang. Each of the cavalry in 2s, and let's see what sort of force we've got. Okay. Well, 3,500 points, it's almost perfect just by adapting it. It needs very little else doing to it. So there we have a pretty much ready-made force. I can probably in this afford to upgrade that to a competent. That's it. That's a 3,500 point Pacto army, which is the middle level of a Pacto army. And if we go over to the print version here, you'll see exactly the same thing printing out in Pacto form. I'll do one last twist for you while I'm here. I'll keep it in the Pacto version. I'll add an ally. So, mount an Indian ally. There we go. Now, if I do that, one of these generals has to be the allied general. So that'll be the ally. And all you do for an allied general is click that, and it'll adjust the points down. And then we need to find a mountain Indian, which I think will precede the... There it does. It precedes it. It's a smaller list. There it is. So what I can do is I can turn some of these into allied troops, or I can add allied troops. So I'm going to add, and you have to you have to do the compulsories. Now at the beginning of each list it tells you how to do an ally. So these are the general rules for an ally. You can have a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 4 UGs, units, SUGs or TuGs. You must get up to at least 50% of the minimums, and thereafter you can take anything. So I've got to get up to 50% of the minimums. Now this is a little complex for Pacto because we already have to reduce them down for Pacto. So Pacto works off 1/3 rounding up. So that would be Maximus. So in Maximus we'd have to get to 8 bases. In Pacto that will be 6. We have to have at least 3 bases of spearmen. So we have to have 2 units of these spearmen. So I am going to put somewhere down here, I'll put it separate down here, allied spearmen. And those spearmen are a little different. They're tribal loose, Irish protected. They have got short spear, but the difference is they have bowmen supporting them from the rear, so they have integral shooter. So there you go, that's one of those. And I'm going to put those as a 2, and I'll have to put 14 there for now while I doodle. And I'll copy that down because I need at least 2 of those. I don't have anything else that's compulsory until we get down to these light horse skirmishes, which is the bit I really want. And the maximum for those for Pacto is going to be 6. The minimum is going to be 3, so I'd have to have at least 1. So I have to have 1 unit of the light horse. So I'll just put 15 down here, mounted in allied light horse. This will give you a different type of army. Cavalry skirmisher unprotected, then they are not bow, they're javelin. And I'm going to give them Cantabrian because that can make them actually quite useful shooters. So there we have it. I'm going to do 2 of those. So now we've got a mounted Indian ally, which has got 4 UGs. So it's the maximum size, and it's got a 3-card general. But we're well over the limit now, so we're going to have to reduce a little bit of the core army. And I can probably do that by dropping out some cavalry. And the easy way to test is simply to do this, because it'll take it off, which is one of the advantages of having this here. You can toggle them in and out by just removing numbers. Okay, so I need to get rid of a little bit more. So I think probably we're going to have to drop an elephant to give us the chance of doing this, and put a cavalry back in. And keep both cavalry poor. Let's see if we can wheedle it. We managed it. There you go, that wasn't too hard, was it? So I'm going to shuffle those up just by doing that. And then I'm going to do a cut and paste of the ally. If you remember, we had 2 cavalry, so when I do that, I'll copy 1 more down. I was 1 short. We should be pretty close. So let's have a see. 3/400. I've done a cavalry too few. So easy way of doing that is going to be to copy those down 1 level. It'll give me an extra cavalry, and it's just a numbering job. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are doubles. Those are doubles. Those are doubles. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And there you have it. And that gives you a slightly different character of army. Now we've got the allied general showing here. We've got more scouting because we've got some light horse thrown in the mix. At present, it's not showing all the units, you see. So you have to just go back here and redo the on and off of false, and it'll pick them up. And now you should see them. There they are. They've appeared at the bottom, the allied light horse. So you have 2 spearmen and 2 light horse, which will be very mobile with a competent instinctive general on their own, partly because the light horse can be dragged around by the spearmen if necessary. So that should be relatively easy to move with that general. The cavalry will have to keep very, very safe around the back, and the elephants will be a little brittle as being only 1 base, but they're still quite dangerous, and we've managed to keep all of the rest in place. So there you go. There's a Pacto army with an ally. So we've done Maximus, where you use all of the numbers as they are here. We've done Pacto, where you divide them by 1/3 and round up. And we've put in an ally in Pacto, where you have to take a minimum of 50% of the compulsories, which is after the adjustment for Pacto here. So again, if we were doing this mounting the ally as a main ally for Maximus, we'd have to have taken at least 8 spearmen and at least 4 light horse. We'd want to anyway. We'd probably take 2 8s of spearmen, and we'd probably take 2 6s of light horse and have the same sort of effect as we've got here in terms of an army design. It would feel very, very similar. I hope that helps, and I hope that gives you a good idea of how to use the army builder. It's always easier than fiddling. The instructions to it are on the first sheet, so don't be daunted by that. We continue to try and develop, so we're seeing about doing an app, and we are seeing about ways whereby we can pull things in directly. But with 670 army lists, it's not a small feat. And usually people, once they've had a go at this, once they've done one army, they're sorted. And once you save it, of course, it's relatively easy to change this to a different army. So you can often adapt from what you've got by taking similar troops, copying them and just adjusting them. The other thing you can do is you can copy an entire block from this into another spreadsheet if you open another spreadsheet. That all works. What you don't want to do is start deleting lines or adding lines. It won't let you anyway because it's all protected, but if you break the protection and did that, it will wreck the connection to the print sheet, which is the easier bit when it comes to actually working. Enjoy, have fun doodling. It's one of the most fun bits of the game, I think, looking at the army list and doodling and finding armies that you're happy with. I actually quite like all 3 of these classical Indian designs, so I think I shall give that Pacto version a run out at some point. Have fun. Bye.